A lot has changed since I made my last State of the Collection video, and it's officially the middle of the year, so I thought, let's do a collection update. I have a big new watch in my collection that I picked up just a few weeks back. I'm falling out of love with some watches I previously super enjoyed, and I'll tell you why my favourite watch in my collection isn't my Omega Seamaster and actually something much cheaper. Hello there, my name's Kieran, welcome to Top Tier Ticker. I hope you're having a good day. I've been collecting watches for around 5 years now. I won't lie, I've had hundreds of watches over the past few years. I'm someone who happily sells a watch if I'm not enjoying it. I like to keep things nice and simple where possible. And I realised in my last State of the Collection video that things got a bit out of hand. I had way too many watches that I either didn't wear or simply didn't care about. So in January, my collection went through a massacre. I sold off the majority of my collection with the aim of keeping things much simpler moving forward. I mean, I can only wear one watch at a time, why do I need so many? Naturally, it is much harder to keep a smaller collection with being a watch reviewer here on YouTube. Obviously, I buy a lot of watches just to review here on the channel, and watch brands send me a lot of watches to review too. At any given time, I could have 20, 30, 40 watches just laying around. But my goal was to develop a core collection, shrink things down and keep things clean. I first decided that 8 watches was the right amount for me, so I picked up a new watch box. I got one that doesn't have a fancy glass top or anything like that. This one is all about the safety. Just a hard shell plastic box with loads of foam on the inside. It's safe, it's cheap, and it actually looks pretty good too. The best part is it only cost me about £15 on AliExpress, so if you want one of these for yourself, you'll find the link you know where down there. So the challenge was set. Shrink my collection down to just 8 watches. It was difficult, a lot of trips to the post office, but I got it done. Now I won't tell you everything I sold because we'd genuinely be here all day. So I'll just tell you about the current collection that I have and how each of these watches have managed to make this exclusive 8-slot watch box. The newest watch in my collection. I've been obsessed with Nomos as a brand for years now. I find it fascinating that they've been creating almost the exact same watches for over 30 years. Like, is it confidence? Is it arrogance? Whatever it may be, I respect it. Nomos is a brand that doesn't follow trends or try and fit in with the crowd. They've got a design language and they stick to it. Bauhaus is often a word used with this style of design, basically meaning that it's simple and minimal. But deciding which Nomos to get is difficult because, well, I liked them all. But Nomos do have incredibly weird sizing with their watches. Like, they look tiny on paper, 35mm, but they actually wear so much bigger. I tried on a few when I visited Bordeaux in France in April, and the one that I liked the most was the Ludwig. Of course, a bit dressier in its design, with the Roman numerals and super thin case, but I like it. I don't usually have a lot of dress watches in my collection, so I enjoyed the idea of having a good one, you know? I must admit, I haven't enjoyed this watch as much as I thought I would. I haven't really had a honeymoon period with it, which is strange. I still think it's a beautiful watch with an even more beautiful movement, which is one of the main reasons I decided to get this watch, by the way. Just look at how good looking that manual wind movement is, and it's made in-house too. But this watch just hasn't grabbed my attention like most other watches in this collection. I'll definitely give this one some more time, but I'm already thinking about switching this up for another Nomos model, more than likely the Nomos Club. The big boy in my collection, the Omega Seamaster Professional. This one is definitely a bit of a grail piece for me, and I am so happy to have this. I'd been eyeing up this watch since the start of my collection journey. I always knew that my first big watch purchase would be a Seamaster. I just love all of the little details on them, like the helium escape valve, the folded lugs, the scalloped bezel, and obviously the wave pattern on the dial. But this specific model, reference 2254.50, was always the one I was going to get. Now I obviously love the rest of the Seamaster lineup, but this one, well, it hits different. If you didn't know, this is the last Seamaster that Omega has produced based around the SMP 300 made for the Ministry of Defence. Basically, this design has strong connections to British history, which was a big selling point for me. The sword hands, the big triangle, iconic elements that I had to have in my collection. And I had to have the real deal too and not a homage. I have loved every single second of owning this watch. From the moment I unboxed it, I have been in love. I frequently just gaze at this watch and just appreciate its perfect design. Funny thing is, although this is a pricey watch, at least for me, it's far from luxurious. When you compare it with something like the Black Bay 58, which is around the same price, the 58 is way more luxurious than this Omega. But I didn't want luxury, I wanted excitement. And for me, this 2254 is one of the coolest watches on the planet. And it's a proper tool watch. Some even call it Omega's last proper tool watch. This one is definitely a long-term keeper, no doubt. When I picked up this two-tone tag Heuer, I had no clue that it would still be around in my collection for so long. I picked it up as a bit of a novelty to maybe wear for a couple of weeks, but I pretty much fell in love with it from the moment I unboxed it. And I've got to admit, I'm still loving it over a year later. Just goes to show you can never really judge a watch until you've spent some time with it. But the reasons why I love this watch are easy to understand. Firstly, it's just a cool watch, come on. It helps that I love a bit of two-tone, and yes, it's a bit flashy, but I think it's cool. The mustardy dial just oozes style, and the bracelet looks so good. But one main reason I think this watch resonates with me so much is the wearing experience. This tag Heuer is just so damn comfy. I actually wear this watch a little loose because it barely weighs anything, and it's just a pleasure. It's super duper thin, by the way, like 8mm or something, which is insane for a 200-meter capable dive watch. This watch just delivers a style that not many of my other watches do. It looks good with almost any outfit that I put on, and it's a watch that just puts a smile on my face every time I close the clasp. And I often find myself reaching for this tag Heuer over my Seamaster. It's a close call, but this one might just be my favourite watch in the collection. Are you even a watch enthusiast if you don't have a Seiko in your collection? Of course, I'm just being silly, but I do love a Seiko. And to be honest, I could happily have a 20 watch collection filled with just Seiko watches. For now though, this is the only Seiko in my collection, and I have no plans to change this one. I've called this Seiko a hidden gem on about 20 different occasions now, so I'll save you the lecture. I just think it's a cool and underappreciated watch. It pretty much got discontinued straight after release, basically one production run and done, which is a shame for the watch, but not a shame for me. This model is actually very hard to get hold of now, and I think it's a Seiko that will be worth a pretty penny in the future. I think it's one of those watches that will be appreciated long after it's gone. Except for me, obviously, I love it. Now, I'm a big fan of Seiko dials, and I mean, how could you not be? But this one is extra special. You rarely see an entry-level Seiko 5 that has this much detail beneath the glass, almost like a Grand Seiko dial. Combine that with the custom all-grey construction, yeah, this is my favourite Seiko 5. There was a period of time where I mentioned the Orient Komatsu in almost every single video. I just needed to tell as many new watch collectors as possible how good this watch is. But it's the longest standing watch in this 8-slot collection. Admittedly, it hasn't seen too much wrist time this year, maybe a couple of times per month, but I still love it, don't worry. It's still a watch that puts a smile on my face every time I strap it on, so it's definitely going nowhere. I don't think I'll ever sell this watch, in fact. I might retire it out of the 8-slot collection at some point, just to give it a rest while something else has a turn, but it'll come back around. I do wish though that this watch had a 20mm lug width over the 22. That's what's currently holding it back for me. I've always struggled to find a 22mm strap that I enjoy wearing, meaning I have to wear the Komatsu on the bracelet, which is fine, but it means that I can't freshen things up with it, you know? Okay, the only field watch in my collection. This watch is actually a bit special to me. I'm sure most of you have heard of Mr. TGV over at the Urban Gentry channel. Well, I'm a big fan of his. Without his videos and passion for watches, I doubt that I'm here today. I've also had the pleasure of having a few conversations with him, and what a guy he is. Anyway, this is a watch that he designed with Mark from Islander. Basically, two YouTube guys that I massively respect created an epic field watch. It's super thin, manual wind, great design, and has ridiculous lume. Now, I recently popped this on a new NATO strap, and it's given me a bit of a second honeymoon with it. It's beefed up the watch a bit, but added a bit of colour too, which is absolutely needed in the summer months. This one is going nowhere. The only out-and-out dress watch in my collection, the Bowcroft Seeker. I actually reviewed this watch not too long back, and the watch was just on loan, but after the review, I just couldn't part ways with it. So I sent Bowcroft an email asking for an invoice because I loved it that much. And it is very rare that I review a watch and just feel like I can't let it go. But this one, well, it got me. I love the colour of the dial, the funky shape of the side of the case, but more than anything, the layout of the indexes and handset are just effortlessly beautiful. Again, another watch that puts a huge smile on my face every time I put it on. And the only chronograph in this collection. I saw this on Instagram one day and I just couldn't get it out of my head. I don't know whether it was the colour combination, the shape of the case, the yellow strap, something just stuck with me. I actually gave myself about 4 weeks of visiting the website, flicking through photos, watching reviews. I didn't want it to be an impulse buy that I threw aside after a week on wrist. It's been a few months now, and I can confirm I still love it. The dial on this watch is just so damn perfect. This one specifically emphasizes that we shouldn't always judge a watch solely based on specs, because the spec on this watch is alright, but it's nothing special. However, it's the design here that's the focus. So much character and detail, great finish into the case, and a piece of glass that is crystal clear. And it's also cool to have a micro brand that's from Brazil. Now I of course have some watches that didn't feature in this video that are absolutely keepers. You know, gifts from people, Casios, sentimental watches, but this is what I consider my daily wear Core 8 collection at the minute. And I'm trying to operate a one in, one out policy too. So if I want anything in the future, something has to go. I'm interested to see how different this collection looks come the end of the year state of the collection. So make sure you're subscribed if you also want to see what the differences are. As for now, I'm super happy with where my collection is at. I'm enjoying watch collecting just as much now as ever. And if you're curious what used to be in my collection, then go and watch my last state of the collection video that I made at the end of last year. You'll see all of the watches that got gone, and you'll see the keepers that are currently made this one. Go and check it out. I'll see you over there, guys. Bye for now.